Well, the conversations continue here at Davos 2023, and joining me now is the chairperson of HCL Tech, Roshni Nadar. Roshni, thanks very much for joining us here in Davos. You look lovely in a sari to start with.
Thank you.
You know, we haven't spoken since you actually took over as chairperson, so let me get started with that. Almost coming up to 5 years. What's the journey been like for you? What's this experience been?
So I think it's been a very good journey. I can't complain. I think it's been a good journey for HCL Tech as well. So, in 2019, when I assumed the role, I think we had just come out of the big HCL software acquisition, and we were in a phase of transformation. And I think, given our last quarter's performance, I think now we're trotting well.
You know, you've been having business meetings here and talking to leaders, and the mood, and I spoke with CVK as well, the mood doesn't seem to be as bad as was anticipated and expected, and the hope and the belief is that the digitalization story will continue, and there might be hiccups in the short term, but in the medium to long term, that story is robust. Is that the indication you're getting as well?
Yeah, so I think that if you were to, speak to us in December, we had a lot more nerves. And I think a lot of the conversations since then are that companies are still going to go through the digital transformation and the necessary spend. And there are always going to be opportunities, there are vendor consolidation opportunities. There is some slowdown in some discretionary spending, but I think that again is much more of now a short-term issue, and we hope that the momentum will actually continue.
You know, you spoke about HCL Tech being on a trot, and yes, you've been industry leading in many metrics as well. What do you foresee over the next few years as far as any change expected in strategy? You talked about the acquisition done, and that continues to be part of your growth plans as well. But any change at all that we should expect, or any new levers that you hope to be able to leverage?
So I think, Shereen, actually, even though the last couple of years of the pandemic have been one where everybody had moved to a work-from-home environment, and we were all taking caution on a couple of our expenditure and how the company was evolving, I think one of the things that you've seen is that for us, we've really ramped up and continue to ramp up the pyramid mix. So the number of freshers that we're hiring. And I think that's also now starting to show in the way we're improving our margins. And that's a strategic direction we want to continue taking. What we've done over the last couple of years and continue to do even now is we've opened quite a few nearshore delivery centers. So, we've got Morocco, we've got Vietnam, we've got Sri Lanka. Despite, the economic turmoil in Sri Lanka, there wasn't a day of billing we lost. There's Mexico, there's Costa Rica. So there are many of these new centers that we're opening. So again, expanding on the nearshore delivery model is something that we're going to continue to pursue. And that will also help us in our select geographies to be a preferred digital partner for G2000 companies, work on becoming the preferred employer. Where you would have read, we're also experimenting with a lot more unique talent pools, like our Tech B program, which is a grade 12 program, which has now grown to 8,000. So it's a very large number. So I think that we're trying some of these innovations, and I think they're tying into our overall strategy to lead through differentiated growth.
How aggressively do you intend to move as far as this remote delivery model is concerned, and are there any specific geographies that you intend to focus on for the same?
So again, I think that it's in a lot of these geographies, they're a lot more customer driven. So when we look at Mexico, we look at Costa Rica, we've scaled to more than about 1,500 people, and that's also driven by demand and by customers. So I think a lot of this is demand driven. In a geography like Morocco, we were identifying geographies where we had talent, and how do we go there proactively. So it's going to be a balance between demand driven and lead customers, as well as pockets where you have talent. But of course, there's no scale like India.
Yes. So let's talk about the India opportunity. And everyone here in Davos is highlighting the digitization story, what we've been able to do as far as the India stack is concerned, and whether this is going to be one of India's most exportable stories as well. So how do you look at the India opportunity today?
So again, I think that we continue to be the largest talent base. And I think one is, of course, the kind of talent that companies and industry like ours enjoy, which is a lot more export. But there are those many more companies who are coming and setting up, large offices and large captives within India to capture that growth as well, and to capture, how India is just growing. And of course, then there's manufacturing, there's infrastructure development. So I think there's a lot that's changing on the ground as well.
Well, speaking about changes and speaking about bets that you're making, here at the WEF, you're backing entrepreneurs who are trying to provide scalable solutions to address some of the global problems and global challenges. What are you excited about?
So we just announced today morning, we partnered with WEF and their Uplink, which is their open innovation platform. We committed 15 million over 5 years on global freshwater innovation, technology and solutions. And today we announced our first 10, we call them aquapreneurs. And over the next 5 years, we'll be selecting 10 every year. So by the end of 5 years, we'll have 50 aquapreneurs from different parts of the world. A lot of our recipients are, from the US, one from Argentina, 2 from India. So it's a global way to, I guess, crowdsource innovation and technology in an area like freshwater, which is not being thought of the way we're thinking about carbon, and maybe even applying some of these solutions to India. And freshwater continues to be in crisis.
Similar plans for India to look at other areas maybe and support startups and innovators across different space?
So in India, this is much more at the HCL group, so not at HCL Tech. We of course have the other large industry, for a lack of a better word, that we're quite invested in, as you know, is education. And we just acquired a company from IIT Madras, Guvi, and it's skilling of online skilling of digital skills through the vernacular.
Okay.
So it's going into tier 3, tier 4 cities, going into multiple states. So again, I think it's the fact that India just has such a young population that's willing to be skilled, and such opportunities not just from companies like ours in our industry, but so many coming from the rest of the world, that how do you actually upskill? So I think there's a huge opportunity there. So we will start doing a lot more in the education space. But that's HCL Group, not HCL Tech.
Yes. With that clarification out of the way, that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, I have seen what you've done with schools like Vidya Gyan and, of course, Shiv Nadar as well. What can we expect in terms of expansion? How much do you intend to take it national? What's the story there?
So I think the last time we spoke, we had 1 university. Now we've got 3. And, we've expanding on our K through 12 schools. So we've got 3 schools in Delhi. We're opening 1 in Chennai. We have the 2 Vidya Gyan leadership academies in UP. By next year, we hope to open 1 more in Tamil Nadu. So I think, our strategy around the foundation, or just building very unique, progressive institutions for India, continues. The Shiv Nadar University in Dadri became the youngest greenfield university to be given the IOE. So we're an institution of eminence. So the foundation continues to expand. We've just completed, we just measured that we've invested 1 billion in India on education.
On education?
Yeah, since we started, which was 25 years ago. So it's quite humbling.
Well, it is, and much more needs to be done, and I'm so glad that that is a space that you're working on and building on. What I want to understand from you, Roshni, over the last 4 years since you took over as chairperson, what has it been like? I mean, what is the mechanism that's been worked out between you and CVK on how you work things through, how you manage things?
Well, like I think in any organization, right? I'm the chairman of the board, and the board has a certain strategic vision, and then Vijay and his team, he's the CEO. So I don't think any different than any other company.
How hands-on are you?
I think as much as I need to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, in this evolution where you started, of course, with looking at education, but now you're looking at the core business as far as the group is concerned. What has been the biggest sort of takeaway for, you know, you've seen your father do this, but what has been the biggest takeaway for you personally as you've gone through this?
Well, I think, Shereen, I've been on the board now for 12 years. Yeah. So I've at least, while I wasn't actively working at HCL Tech, but I've been on the board for 12 years. So I think HCL Tech has itself gone through so much transformation, and my chairmanship role over the last 4 years has probably been in the most dynamic time, because we went through a pandemic and we went through, complete transformation. Today, we have at least 70% of our workforce working from home. And, and we've hired so many freshers, and 60% of them we've never met before. So I think that the workplace dynamics have also changed so significantly.
But you intend keeping it that way, because everybody now seems to be getting people back to work.
No, we want to be virtual first. And we've also discovered, Shereen, that we did this last year. We have about 30 to 35 cities in India where we've got more than 1,200 employees. So, I mean, that's huge. And so that's a huge population. So, looking at not just the big campuses we have, but, maybe smaller employee experience centers in some of these smaller towns, because a lot of people have moved back, and I don't think they have intention to move back to the cities.
So you're going to continue with this?
Yeah, with a virtual first model.
Well, Roshni, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here in Davos for your time, and thanks for chatting with us on CNBC-TV18.
Thank you, Shereen. Thank you.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck. We are going to take a break. There's a lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a minute with more.